Okay, it's working well. In this part, I want to talk about this 9 to 5 thing that millions, I would say tens of millions, are holding on to. Well, actually more, but let me just say tens of millions for now because it's embarrassing how many people are keeping this in existence. Where this 9 to 5 thing came from. In the 19th century, there was this reform going on in the world's economy and in international relations. With the breaking down, or better said, decimating or falling apart of the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, assisted by the French Empire, emerged as the decision makers. In this era, nationalism came up and the nation state. And nations are founded on blood sacrifice of men. So, in this time, the men became anxious. Why? Because if they're not found worthy for the nation, they could be next. So, the men wanted to avoid being sacrificed by their communities. So, this fear was instilled in the men by the warlocks, by those that run the business world and run politics. The wizards orchestrate this behind the scenes, but the warlocks acted the policies out. So the warlocks set up a structure in which the men are convinced that they are worthy. So they set up a structure to meet the mental needs of men, common men. Not meeting the need in the sense that the men are now healthy, but they trick common men to think that if they comply with the nation, that they are worth it. And it's this necessity for significance that every human being has that's used to trick men into this workload. That's how the Industrial Revolution came up. That's how this 9 to 5 structure was developed, in which men are drained of their life source, and in return they get some compensation and a pat on the back that they did a good job. That's what it's about. It's all about tricking men into thinking that the beast system is looking after them. Because human beings have the need to be taken care of. We have, whether you're a little baby or you're an elderly or you're in your teens, every human being has the need to be looked after. And the Apollonians that rule this world, they know this. So they designed up a system in which the men are drained, because remember, demons feed off of male energy primarily, so the men are drained so the demons are happy, and the men get a compensation to trick them into staying in this destructive cycle. Over time, some women who were witches were jealous and envious about the validation men received. They want to be part of it too. That's how many warlocks came up with the feminist movement, yet the warlocks interact pretending to be empowered women to spy on real women into destroying themselves by profaning their femininity. That happened. In the 1960s, this came into full blossom, and we reap the consequences today. Yes, this was going on. This whole gender dysphoria thing that's going on is a consequence of females profaning their femininity. While you have masculinity, you have it around enough, but without proper femininity, it goes wrong. Straight up. In the beginning of this 9 to 5 mechanism, you still had some femininity that would compensate the harm done to the men. But now that femininity is kind of gone in many places, well, it goes down the tube. Now about this 9 to 5 thing. Why are folks putting up with it? It is because the alternative would be that they need to be active in life daily. And that's something that scares folks. Folks would rather be drained by some machine, knowing that they can control the machine to some extent, knowing that they'll be drained. They'd rather have that than to have complete no sense of control at all and having to rely on God directly. Now you live in the world, so you have to pay rent, you have to pay this and that. So it's logical that you want to get a job or an income. I understand that, but somewhere you must realize, hold on a minute, it doesn't add up. If they say to me, the scientists are saying that this life, I mean this time in this body is the only thing you have. So if that's the case, that's not the case, but if that's the case, that this short period of time in this earthly vessel is the only thing you have, then why is it that we collectively tolerate that we need to hand in our life source almost every day, become tired at the end of the day, we can't do anything anymore, just to get a cheap compensation in the form of paper and coins at the end of the month? And we need to fight hard to keep that going. And after 40 or 50 years, when you're approaching your late 60s, you're not useful anymore because you're so drained, you're probably sick also, you develop diseases by all the hard work. Now you get another small compensation called the pension, and within 2, 3, or maybe 5 years, you're gone. So actually, your life is sipped out of you. Your life is sucked out of you by a vampiristic system. And that piece of paper has no intrinsic value at all. It's only valuable because we say it's valuable. And for that piece of paper that's printed in some factory somewhere by warlocks and wizards that oversee it, for that we need to keep running all our lives long. For that we need to have stress, how to pay the rent, we need to make sure that we have a job, or else for that we remain in this state of anxiety. There comes a point that you realize, hold on a minute, this isn't right. I'm born on the earth, so I'm native to the earth. Yet, me being native to the earth, I need to toil and be exhausted and drained by other human beings who for some reason have a right not to be drained and exploited. So I need to allow that to happen for me to remain alive on the earth, even though I'm native to the earth. What is that? Somewhere your inner alarm needs to go off and you realize something is terribly wrong here. But the moment you realize something's terribly wrong, it's your responsibility to find out what's wrong, why it's wrong, and how to be delivered from it. And here comes the point. Commoners don't want to go there. Because their relatives, their parents, grandparents, their significant other or their spouse, everyone they know, everyone they get social validation from, is involved in this vampiristic system. So for them to realize that this vampiristic system is wrong, then they need to acknowledge that everyone that they had around them were either victimized by the same system, and not only were they victimized, they are in denial of the system. So that means that they need to recognize that for them to be freed from the system, it may imply that they may lose some of those people. Some people are okay with that, but then they realize, hold on a minute, if I'm free from this system and I operate in natural autonomy, I'm going to get retaliation. Because other folks who don't want to face reality, they're going to become upset with me because I don't validate their bondage. I don't validate their doom. So then they need to face retaliation also. And eventually they realize I need to have some assistance. Now some end up with some paranormal cover. I don't recommend that. But there are those who realize, hold on a minute, those entities that assist me in this paranormal thing are the same entities the abusers of this world, who rule the world, are using. And then they realize, hold on a minute, this is all darkness, I need to find the light. And then they realize Christ is the light. But then they realize, hold on a minute, there are narcissistic things in my thinking that needs to be worked out. Then they need to face themselves, which is also scary. So, to put it short, the way out of this Catholic, Masonic, Apollonian system is Christ. The way out completely. I don't talk about getting a paranormal cover to cope and to get along. I talk about really the way out, to be free. But that will come with some costs. And those costs are worth it. But many don't want to go through the deliverance process. many don't want to see things as they are. They're so attached to the instant validation they get by a complying society. That's all they've ever known. So instead of embracing life and shaking the dust of this world system off their feet, they avoid life, but at the same time they miss life because life is what they're meant to be operative in. So to cover up this missing, this aging of theirs, they have all those activities as I explained in the intro. That's why the Polonians established circus attractions as well as many pubs in many streets. Why? Because when the men were being trained in the factories and they had to feel alive, they would receive strong drinks, or they call it strong spirits. So now they would receive a lot of alcohol and they would have a great time drinking together. Eventually this led to addiction because that relief from alcohol was the only enjoyment they often had, because often their marriages were in a very bad shape and they didn't have much finances to do anything else either. So that's how alcoholism became a policy that has been enforced on the population in the industrialized world. That's why it has become common for people after they finish work to go and drink with their colleagues at some pub or at some cafe. That's where it comes from. Today, the wage slaves have more relaxation. We have a thing called holidays. But even then, you're trained before getting holiday, and you're conditioned to think that you need to earn your holidays. Hold on a minute. You're native to the earth. Okay? The creator made you male or female. You're a human being, male or female. There's no such thing as something in between, and hermaphrodite, all that crap. You're here. The earth is your home, not heaven. The earth is your home. You're meant to be prosperous on the earth. But now, instead of you operating in natural prosperity as the Creator intends, He intended and He intends because He never changes. The Most High is constant. He wants you to be operative and prosperous on the earth. But instead of you being prosperous on the earth, you're now being trained by devil worshippers who are sodomites. And the people around you tell you that that's just the way it is. And if you want to if you want to have relief from this, that means a holiday or some days off, you need to earn it. That would be the same as someone coming to you with a gun and telling you, if you wanna be free from this threat, you need to earn it. So they threaten you, endanger you, and they tell you, if you want to get rid of this danger, you need to work for it. That's what's going on. Why are people putting up with this? It's because they are avoiding life. They are fleeing. They won't admit they're fleeing, but that's what they're doing. Then they come up with things like work ethics. They come up with norms and values. They come up with things as, well, I was properly raised by my parents, so the parenting of their parents are going to beautify it as if it was something that great. They come with all these things to cover up their cowardice. They are avoiding life. And here's the thing. I don't care whether your parents raised you conservative, liberal, whatever. If your parents didn't tell you plainly that there's something completely wrong with this world, and me, mom, and dad, we mess up, we're stuck in it, you do better than us. If your parents didn't tell you that, and if they didn't raise you with such a mindset, then what did they do? They just trained you to seek relief from society. They just trained you to be a good victim to what society is doing to you. They've trained you. I'm not saying they did it on purpose, some didn't know any better, but they've trained you to please society at your own expense and feeling proud in doing so. That's what they did. So a lot of people take pride in they were raised by their parents. How were you raised? Okay? How were your parents raised? Oh, your parents were raised, and yes, quote-unquote norms and values and manners. Now the world they grew up in, was it just? Was it righteous? Oh, wait a minute, there was a lot of war, there was a lot of sickness, and even locally, when there was some military conflict, there was much contention, there was crime, there was cheating, there was all of that. So your parents grew up in such a world. They haven't sought any deliverance from it. And now they raise you to validate them. Them that didn't want to face life. And now you take pride in them raising you because they've raised you in such a way that you get validation from society. That same society that you inherited from your ancestors, in this case from your parents, in which there's injustice that people don't want to face. And you're proud of that? So even folks taking pride in them being raised well, often it's just an excuse for them not wanting to face reality. They don't want to face the paranormal patterns that are haunting them. They don't want to face the generational curses. They don't want to face the ancestral spirits that are haunting them. They don't want to face what's going on. They just want to be left alone and relieved. They love that. I'll make more parts of this series. For now, agree with Christ and be at peace.